It starts with a single missile. In Hadera, right in central Israel, an Iranian ballistic missile slams into the grounds of the Orat Rabin power station. Now think about that. This isn't a military base. It's not an air defense battery. It's a power station. And the choice to target civilian energy infrastructure like this, well, it represents a huge shift in the strategy of this conflict. Let's really dig into why.
Right. This is exactly what we're talking about. A strike like this goes way beyond just trying to take out military hardware. This is a strike on the systems that allow a modern country to even function. The real goal here is to degrade the nation's ability to sustain itself and, ultimately, to wage war. So, in this explainer, we're going to dissect this whole event across 6 key areas. We're going to look at the target itself, then break down how a power grid actually fails, the unbelievable consequences of that failure, and how this strike fits into a much larger campaign. We'll also get into the economics of it all, this war of attrition, and what it reveals about this new unseen battlefield. First things first, the choice of the Orat Rabin power station wasn't random. Not at all. This was a deliberate, calculated move, picked for the biggest possible systemic effect. And you know, whoever chose this target shows a deep, deep understanding of Israel's national grid.
And here's why it was so significant. We're talking about a facility that, historically, has supplied around 20% of Israel's total electricity. 20%! Taking a chunk that big out of the system creates an immediate, absolutely massive problem.
And the impact just radiates out from there. This station isn't just some local plant. It's a critical hub for the whole country. It powers the economic heart of Israel in the Tel Aviv area, the heavily populated Sharon region, and, this is key, it juices up both critical defense systems and industrial facilities that are vital to the war effort.
Okay, so to really grasp the damage here, we need to get into the physics of how an electrical grid works. A modern grid isn't just a bunch of wires. It's an incredibly fragile, finely balanced system that operates with unbelievable precision. Think about this. Every single generator connected to the Israeli grid has to spin in perfect sync, all of them together, to maintain a frequency of exactly 50 Hertz. If that frequency wobbles even a tiny bit, the whole system starts to become unstable. And that instability, that's what leads to something called a cascade failure. It's a chain reaction. It's literally like tipping over the first domino. The failure of one part doesn't just leave a gap, it puts crushing stress on everything else, causing them to fail one after another. So let's just walk through the sequence. First, a huge generator like Orat Rabin gets knocked offline. Instantly, the grid's frequency plummets. All the other generators try to pick up the slack, but the deficit is just too big and they start to overload. To stop themselves from burning out, their own safety systems kick in and trip them offline too. And just like that, a regional blackout begins, with the very real danger of it spreading across the entire country. Once the grid starts to fail, you get this massive ripple effect. See, a strike on a power station isn't just a strike on one building. It's a strike on every hospital, every water plant, every radar dish, and every single home that it powers. You know, in hospitals, the backup generators kick on in seconds. That's true. They power the absolute essentials, the operating rooms, the ICUs, the life support machines, but they don't carry the whole building. Non-essential systems go dark. The hospital is running, yes, but it's on life support itself, running on a lifeline and under enormous strain. Then there's the water. Israel's water system, especially its huge, power-hungry desalination plants, is completely dependent on the grid. These plants literally manufacture a huge portion of the country's fresh water. No grid power means they just don't run. A long outage, and suddenly water shortages become a very real threat. And the impact on defense is absolutely crucial. Now, frontline systems like the Iron Dome batteries, they have their own power. But the bigger picture, the vast radar networks, the command and control hubs that pull all that data together, that stuff relies on the civilian grid. A long blackout starts to eat away at the margins of the entire national defense system. So we have to understand, this strike on Hadera didn't just happen out of the blue. When you look at it in sequence with the attacks that came before it, you can see a very clear, very strategic progression. It's like watching someone deliberately climb an escalation ladder. Let's look at the rungs on that ladder. First, you have the strike on Nevatim Air Base, a direct hit on military capability. Second was the huge barrage on Tel Aviv, which targeted both the air defense system and the morale of the people. And now, this third major strike on Hadera, this one targets the economic and infrastructural bedrock that holds up the entire war effort. Each step on this ladder was chosen to inflict pain in a different area: military, civilian defense, and now the economy. The logic behind the targeting shows you this isn't just random or improvised. This is a meticulously planned campaign.
And this brings us to the economic part of the campaign. Because a long-term disruption to the power grid does something that hitting a military base just can't do as efficiently. It directly attacks the economic engine that keeps the war going.
Think about it. Israel's defense factories, the ones building the interceptors that they're using up at an incredible rate, they all run on grid power. And the kind of precision manufacturing you need for something like an aero interceptor requires clean, stable electricity. So the goal isn't necessarily to destroy the factory, it's to slow it down. It's to win a war of attrition by simply choking off its production.
And the numbers show just how brutally effective this strategy is. For this one strike on Hadera, you have a missile that costs maybe $400,000. The estimated economic damage? Somewhere between $500 million and $2 billion. That's a cost-exchange ratio of over 1 to 1,000. The math is just devastating, and it's completely unsustainable for the defender.
So when you put all this together, the implications are just profound. This progression from purely military targets to the national power grid, it shows us the new reality of this conflict. What we're seeing is a systematic campaign designed to make the country impossible to sustain.
Now, you're going to hear official statements talking about recovery and resilience, about brave crews working to get the power back on. And that's all true. But there's another story happening at the same time. The story of attrition. It's a campaign designed to inflict costs faster than they can be fixed, to drain resources, and to chip away at capacity across every single part of society all at once.
And that's the thing. Both of these stories are happening, but only one of them really explains where this conflict is heading in the long run. So the question we're left with isn't just, will the lights come back on? The real question is whether the system itself can survive a campaign that's designed to make sure they can never stay on for long.